Some events defy both science and logic. A door slamming shut on its own, dark shadows slipping through the walls, whispers echoing in an empty room at midnight. Some dismiss these occurrences as illusions, tricks of the mind, mere coincidences. But what if, just sometimes, an unseen force is truly trying to communicate with us? Imagine this. You're in your own home, within the four walls where you should feel safe, but something is off. Objects move on their own, strange noises fill the night, and worst of all, there's something there. You can't see it, but you can feel it, deep in your bones, and it's watching you. Today we're diving into the first and only case in Spanish history officially classified as a paranormal event, the Vallecas case. A family's life turned into a nightmare. Events so disturbing even authorities struggled to explain them, and unanswered questions that remain decades later. So what really happened? Was it nothing more than a shared delusion? Or did something we cannot see, cannot touch, reach into our world and leave its mark? Get ready, because this story holds much more than you've ever heard before. By the way, if you enjoy this kind of content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Your support means a lot to me. Welcome to my channel, Discovery of the Mystery, where we will uncover the secrets. It all began in 1990. Estefanía Gutierrez Lazaro, an 18-year-old girl living in the Vallecas neighborhood of Madrid, was just like any other teenager, curious, full of life, and always looking for adventure. But that year, something happened that would irreversibly change not just her life, but the lives of her entire family. One day at school, she and her friends decided to hold a Ouija session. Their goal was simple: to have fun, maybe experience a little thrill. But throughout history, people had been warned that such sessions were not just games. Still, the group of teens ignored the cautionary tales and stepped into the unknown, their hands placed firmly on the Ouija board. Then, something unexpected happened. Their teacher suddenly walked in and caught them in the act. Furious, she stormed into the room, snatched the board from their hands, and broke it in half. At that exact moment, a strange, dark smoke filled the room. As it spread rapidly, Estefanía began trembling and collapsed to the floor. No one knew what it meant at the time, but this was the beginning of a nightmare she would never escape. From that day on, Estefanía's life was never the same. Once cheerful and energetic, she became constantly exhausted, distant, and uneasy. Her family recalled how she would wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Sometimes she would stare into empty space, whispering, as if she was talking to someone unseen. But the most terrifying part? She claimed things in her room were moving on their own. Her family initially dismissed it as nothing more than teenage hysteria. They didn't take it seriously until things took a terrifying turn. Estefanía began saying that she could hear scratching noises on her bedroom walls at night. It felt as if something was lurking in the darkness, slowly creeping toward her. But the most horrifying part was the shadows, figures she couldn't see but could feel watching her. She told her family that dark silhouettes stood by her bed, watching her. These black figures seemed to inch closer every night, sometimes whispering, other times emitting a deafening hum. Yet whenever her parents entered the room, everything looked normal. Still, Estefanía insisted, she was not alone. As days passed, her condition worsened. The dark circles under her eyes deepened, and her body grew weaker by the day. She began experiencing hallucinations, sudden seizures, and uncontrolled fits of screaming. Doctors examined her multiple times, but could not find any medical explanation. Her family was desperate. Then the strange occurrences spread beyond her bedroom. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut suddenly, and unexplainable sounds echoed through the house. And then, Estefanía died, abruptly and mysteriously. The exact cause of death remained unknown. According to autopsy reports, there was an abnormal pressure in her lungs, but no one could explain why. So what really happened to Estefanía? Was what happened in class that day just a coincidence? Or had she fallen under the influence of an unknown force? While searching for these answers, one thing became clear. The horror was far from over, because the real nightmare was only just beginning. The Gutierrez family began experiencing terrifying events in their home. Whispers echoed through the night, doors opened and closed on their own, and an intense coldness suddenly filled the rooms. But the most chilling part was that Estefania's family claimed to have seen a shadowy figure in her bedroom. Her father, Maximo Gutierrez, recalled seeing a distinct presence in the darkness one night, and it was moving toward him. The family could no longer bear the fear. In desperation, they finally called the police. And what happened next would cement the Vallecas case in history. When police officers arrived, they encountered something unlike anything they had ever seen before. 4 officers, including the chief inspector, were dispatched to the Gutierrez home in Vallecas after receiving an official complaint. The family had reached out for help, claiming that paranormal disturbances in the house had become unbearable. But the officers assumed they were responding to a routine call, nothing more than a domestic dispute or a simple security issue. However, the moment they stepped inside, they realized that this was something else entirely. The air was thick and oppressive, filling the space with an unexplainable unease. The terrified family greeted them at the door and began recounting the horrifying events of the past few days. But the officers wouldn't just hear stories, they would experience the terror firsthand. As they began investigating the house, the first signs of something unnatural appeared. While walking down the hallway, one officer heard a loud scratching sound coming from inside the walls, as if something was trying to claw its way out. Another officer noticed that the lights were flickering erratically. Meanwhile, a cold breeze swept through the room, but when they checked, the windows were completely shut. At that moment, a sudden crashing sound from the kitchen made everyone jump. The officers rushed toward the noise, only to discover that a cabinet had fallen over, without anyone touching it. One of the witnesses, the chief inspector, later described the event in his official report. Objects moved without any physical interaction. A cabinet toppled over on its own. At that moment, we experienced an overwhelming sense of fear that we could not explain. This was no longer just a family's testimony. It had now become a paranormal case witnessed by official authorities. As the officers continued their investigation, one of the doors suddenly slammed shut with immense force. Startled, the police drew their weapons and searched the rooms, only to find no one inside. The events were so unbelievable that they were officially recorded in police reports as a paranormal case. The official documents contained the following statement: unexplained events occurred at the scene. Objects moved without physical interaction, and abnormal phenomena were observed. This incident became the first and only officially documented paranormal case in Spanish police history. Years later, some of the officers who were present that night admitted in interviews that the fear they felt was real and that they had witnessed things they still could not explain. After enduring so much, the Gutierrez family was forced to leave their home. But the story did not end there. Many believe that Estefania's spirit never found peace and that her presence still lingers in the house. Even today, the Vallecas case remains one of the greatest mysteries for paranormal researchers and enthusiasts. So, what do you think? You can share your thoughts on this topic in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed my content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. You can support my channel by liking and commenting on my content. Until we meet again.